What's on, where, and when. It's the Talk of Nelson. Talk Nelson Radio. The Mako Rugby Roundup.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Mako Rugby Roundup. I'm your host, Chris Butler, and as always, joined by my co-hosts, Les Edwards and Sean Davies. Good to see you, gentlemen.
Yeah, mate. Nice to see you, my friend.
Geez, it's frosty this morning, wasn't it? Going down Cable Bay Valley, it was certainly white, that's for sure.
Yeah, bit of frost around, bit of ice around, mate.
But it's winter has finally arrived. It's our great pleasure to welcome our guest to the show, Hugh Bainan, who's the Tasman Mako team manager. Welcome, mate.
G'day, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Have I pronounced that right, Bainan?
You have.
And Hugh is spelt quite differently, isn't it? So
Yep.
H-U-W. And what's that background?
I've got a Welsh dad,
So
English mum.
yes.
Mum wanted to call me Hugh, and I think my dad said only if we spelled it the Welsh way. And that's the Welsh way.
Oh, there you
H-U-W.
go.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, there you go. Let's jump into it. This week we talk first 15 rugby finals, senior club rugby final, Seddon Shield, the Farah Palmer Cup, NPC, the Bledisloe, the World Cup squad, and also we catch up with Hugh about his time with the Tasman Mako and team manager, the Rugby World squad as well. We're going to discuss that lineup. But first of all, our venue sponsor is O'Shedigans on Bridge Street. And if you're looking for a place to talk rugby, enjoy some great company, O'Shedigans is the spot to be. The Shed Chat, mate.
Yeah, mate. Yep. Mate, Mako are back in action.
Yes.
All Blacks were back in action. Great weekend we just got through. And, but plenty of rugby on this weekend as well, mate. So we've got Saturday night, I think, Les, correct me if I'm wrong. Saturday night, Mako are over in Blenheim.
Yes.
And, so I'll be parked up here. I won't make the journey over this week. I'll make sure I occupy a space in the bar instead.
Yep.
So, we'll have the Mako and the Wars who are building in momentum a lot. You know, there's a bit of hype starting to follow them around as well. So we're starting to notice, all the bandwagon climber honors are starting to get on the wagon, and it's getting very popular. So we'll have that on as well. That's Saturday night, so it'll be the double header with Mako and the Warriors, but sure to bring plenty of energy.
So it's supposed to be. How did the train go? Oh, sorry, the bus.
The bus went well.
Yeah,
we had probably 30 odd in the end, and the bus itself was a little disjointed on the way home, but most of the 30 made their way back to the bar. I don't know if they all quite made it, but it was a great one, and awesome to be back watching some live rugby.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. All right, Les, first 15 rugby, the finals.
Yeah, and four finals, and the underdogs got up in all of them, so that didn't do well for Nelson College. But let's get into it. Championship plate final. Waimea combined 15 beat St. Bede's second 15-10. So our friends at Waimea College and the other colleges that participate in that team, congratulations. That's a really nice way to end a season. Top five.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the premiership, in the plate, Marlborough Boys High got a win away 27-15 against St. Andrews College, so another upset, and again finishing in that fifth spot. In the big final at the front field, Nelson College unfortunately went down by 26-30 to Christchurch Boys High School. But what an amazing game of rugby it was. I mean, this was first 15 footy at its finest. Just some wonderfully enterprising play, and I would say, that on that day, the spoils went to the correct team. Christchurch Boys High School just a little bit too strong for Nelson, but for Nelson College, a terrific season, 10-1, 11-1.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. Yeah, and going the whole season pretty much undefeated, and then that final hurdle, it's sometimes the way. But big crowd,
massive, noisy, colourful, just an excellent spectacle.
And how did the game go? Did you feel that Christchurch were fairly consistent throughout?
Yes, Nelson College,
yes,
opened the scoring.
Yeah,
but then there was a lot of to and fro, and Christchurch just finally edged away at the tail end of the game. But look, the year 13s at Nelson College, they'll be disappointed. But hey, they had a hell of a year. So
Yeah.
But it's a young team, and 2024 will be exciting.
Well, that's it. I mean, doing so well because it was a bit of a refresh team, wasn't it? And a lot of young players. So, having that result, boy, they must be pretty happy. But, yeah, of course, you want to win the final. There'll be a bit of disappointment there, but congratulations to Christchurch Boys High School. Senior Club Rugby and Sean, the big final in Division 2. How did it wash up?
Mate, almost, I guess, I don't know if you'd call it an upset. You'd probably call it an upset because Stoke was so strong all year. And, went down in the final 33-29 to Rewalker. So congratulations to Rewalker who got the job done on the day. But, yeah, Stoke will be probably a little bit disappointed with the result.
Well, that's right. Was this Chris Little's last hurrah?
Oh, not his last hurrah.
Never.
Years. I did warn them on the show last week.
You did. You called it.
Watch out for Rewalker. Because when they get down, they were down by a lot.
Yeah.
They start throwing that ball around in fantastic style. And unfortunately for Stoke, their season 2 came to a halt. But congratulations to Rewalker.
Yeah, especially doing it away. And, with Kahurangi not quite being able to do it this season, they'll be pretty happy that one of the feeder teams, Rewalker, comes away with the result. So very happy over that way. Sed and Shield, round 3 in Murchison, and 1 p.m. Buller versus West Coast.
Yeah, so sorry, mate, I should have updated you.
Yes.
But there's been a change, and Marlborough are going to host Nelson Bays, who have the Shield, the Sydney Shield, but aren't challenging for it because they're playing at home, as a curtain raiser for the Tasman Mako versus Auckland on Saturday. So that game's now going to kick off at 4:30. But what a great occasion for everyone in those two teams.
Yeah. Buller and West Coast, so they'll be hammering it out 1 o'clock. Good luck to them.
Yep.
Yeah. Farah Palmer Cup. And Hugh, have you had a chance to watch a bit of the season so far?
Yeah, I've seen the highlights. The Wahine played the same time as the men on Friday over in Blenheim. So the results were filtering through while we were on the sideline, and geez, big win. It's been good atmosphere around the Mako team, the ladies over. We cross paths a lot around TRU. They're in good spirits, had a good preseason camp, much like us, and great start to the season. Went down to a tough Otago team and with a good display, and then absolutely smashed the Naki, which is great.
Yeah, they did. That's right.
It's a big scoreline, isn't it?
It is. So this Sunday, they're taking on Manawatu. Manawatu had a good win on the weekend, so that's going to be a tough match, isn't it?
Yeah, they're good. Yeah. Their women's program, you say, is probably stronger than their men's program at the moment. The Cyclones, they've always been one of the standard bearers, haven't they, in the women's rugby?
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
They've created, dead right, Hugh. They've created a lot of Black Ferns Sevens and Black Ferns players in their time there. So a real nursery for women's rugby in our country. It's going to be tough. It's at Palmy. Manawatu haven't had a loss, but if our girls go and stick to their guns, they can give this a real crack. I think the big thing is they scored 61 points against Taranaki missing 8 conversions. So,
right,
if you can kick your goals and stay close, then I think there's a real chance for an upset.
I mean, let's face it, the start's been the strongest that they've had so far.
Yeah.
And the other aspect to this is the fact that, I don't know, I just get a feeling they're building, They probably didn't quite gel against Otago. They could have got the win there with a tough side. And now, they put a few things together against Taranaki. But, big challenge against Manawatu.
Yeah, it'll be a big test.
Yeah, for sure. Good luck to the girls, the Bunnings Warehouse MPC, and good win, good start to the season. Hugh, obviously you were there, and Otago put up a good fight, didn't they? We were talking last week. They won't be a slouch team, that's for sure, but a good steady start for the Mako.
Yeah, just couldn't put them away, really. Excuse me, every time the Mako went ahead, Otago came straight back at us, which I know was frustrating for the coaching staff. I could hear in my ear the entire game. So plenty of work-ons for this week. But, yeah, solid win, professional win. Yeah. I think you'd call it. A lot of things went right. We had a nice team on paper, translated nicely to the field. So, good start. Couldn't ask for much better.
Yeah. And, that just goes to show, doesn't it, Otago, they're never going to say die. I mean, they haven't had probably the best couple of years, and the Highlanders in the same boat, but they're going to come back.
Yeah. I think, Otago will shake a couple of teams up this year. And like you said, it was professional win in the end. It wasn't probably flawless, but the result was there, and they got it done.
Great to have David Harvilli for 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's right.
But since you've got the coaches in your ear, towards the end, there was a penalty which we kicked, and a few in the crowd at the corner, the walking bus corner, were thinking that maybe a kick to the corners and go for the line out in the fourth bonus point try might have been on offer, but you would have heard they obviously felt that they just had to keep Otago at bay.
Yeah, it wasn't even debated. It was get the tee on right now. So I think it was just get this win, move on. Yeah. It was great to have Dave back. You might have noticed he started warming up again it doesn't take a genius to work out the 40 minutes was instructions from on high, as it should be. So he played 40 minutes, came off at half time, and then started warming up in that second half. I don't know if a few people noticed. Things got a little bit squeaky bum there, was we had a man down, but everything was good. And he managed just to get his 40, make an impact, and then on his way.
Nice. Yeah, good stuff. We'll talk about the World Cup squad very shortly, but this Saturday, 7:05, Mako hosting Auckland at Lansdowne Park. So what are your thoughts going to this, Hugh?
It's a big one. Anytime you play Auckland, if you're not from Auckland, anytime you play Auckland, it's a big one, right? So going 2-0, starting the season with 2 home wins, we got a great draw handed down to us from the NPC with good turnarounds, to have a home game and then an 8-day turnaround to another home game is a great start. So if we can capitalize on that and have 2 wins under our belt before Storm Week, a Storm Week that might include a Ranfurly Shield Challenge, depending on how this weekend goes. You can't ask for much better than that. So, I think the boys are pretty confident. We'll talk about it later, of course, but the fellas and the coaching staff, they're in a good space. It's not having that flawless display, like you said, Sean, against Otago hasn't led to any complacency or overconfidence. It's, we're not perfect. We're going to have to work for this one. So, I'm excited. It's going to be a hell of an occasion.
Nice. So, what are your thoughts, lads? What are we thinking?
Yeah, look, Auckland got the win eventually over Bay of Plenty, but it was very late, conversion in extra time, final play of the game, and they got it done. But they'll be a tough squad. It'll be a really good game, and looking forward to it.
Yes, what do you reckon?
Never easy against Auckland, but great that it's in Blenheim, home ground advantage. I think that's all in our favour. And if we utilise that nor'wester that we know about at Lansdowne Park, I think it'll be a great game.
Now, Hugh, have we got any major injuries, and have we got our lock forwards?
Locks are there. Yeah.
Yay! Last year they didn't have any locks. All the locks are injured.
Obviously, Tom Marshall went off with failed an HIA last week, so he won't be available this week. So likely see Tomasi Alessio come into the lineup, who, correct me if I'm wrong, had an absolute blinder last time the Mako played Auckland. Just a couple of changes. We'll see when the team comes out later this week, but otherwise pretty settled team.
That's what we want to hear.
As long as that tight 5 stays settled, the rest will follow. But I thought the front row went well again, and the 2 locks, Pari and Quinton Strange, really important to our season.
Yeah, absolutely. Bledisloe Cup, and my thoughts was it could be a tight.
Come on, you've been looking
every week. You're looking for it.
Well, I you can never count them out. And as it turned up, didn't they play quite well? And now Eddie's saying I still think we can win the World Cup, and I wouldn't put it past them because they're building very nicely. And even now, some of his naysayers are turning around saying, "Well, actually, might have to eat my words here. Australia are actually starting to look pretty good, and it's about gelling together." Granted, we had quite a new side, didn't we?
Gonna say, mate, we helped them look good. Come on, don't buy into Eddie's stuff. All right,
no sympathy at all.
I had to laugh when I heard Eddie talking about visiting Centrelink and seeing Ian Foster down there. Then he mentioned he was 4-0 or 0-4, and he was in line as well because he might be looking for a new gig. But no, look, it was a good finish. I mean, the first half you've got to put down to a little bit of try something new from the All Blacks, but once the reserves came on in that second half, it looked like a completely different game, and got the result we needed and move on.
Yeah, a couple of those new players went well though. I like Fee now at 6.
Yeah.
Thought he looked like a really good backup for Frizzell going forward when Frizzell goes to Japan next year. So he ticked a box, I think. Lester Whanganuku was just amazing. If he wasn't on the plane, he was on it immediately after that game. Would you agree, Hugh?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we were watching, as you can imagine, with happy either way. Either happy for Leicester to make it, or happy to welcome him back home for the rest of our season. But absolutely played his way onto that plane if he wasn't there already.
So, what were your thoughts on the game, Hugh?
You know what? I watched it, and this is the life of having 3 kids under 6. I had to turn it off when we were 17-3 down, and then turned it back on for the last 10. And was like, oh, and then obviously I watched the highlights and caught up with the game. So I thought it was good, a good old-fashioned test match.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny hearing you, Sean, because as a man who's grown up supporting Wales my entire life, never write off the All Blacks, right? So 17-3 down, I was getting texts from mates saying, "Oh, are we actually going to lose?" It's like, just wait, never write them off. I've been at many a game with a red jersey on where we've been leading with 5 minutes to go, and you can't write them off, and we still haven't beaten them in my lifetime or even my dad's lifetime. So I thought it was a good old-fashioned test match, and probably good. That old cliche of good to have a close one, bit of a wake-up call, be down a bit instead of just rolling into a World Cup with 4 big wins under your belt. I thought it was great.
I think it answered quite a few questions as we now lead into the Rugby World Cup squad around cementing some of those positions, and one of those being the fact, and look, it was only one game, Damian McKenzie at 10, and some of the options he chose, some kicks when, that just frustrates the hell out of me when we keep just giving the ball back to the opposition. And I can understand it. It's a game of odds, and if there's nothing on, just try something. But we're kicking it straight to their fullback or what have you. He didn't have the best of games, but and that then brought into conversation about whether he should be on the plane. But he's a game breaker. That game against Argentina, he showed what he can do. And then, some big questions because there's a note here, Leslie, you put, who's unlucky to miss out? Finau. He had a blinder, and he's like Frizzell. He reminds me of a young Frizzell. Frizzell, look at Frizzell now, what he's turning into, and I think it's a big shame that he's not on that plane. But, what do we got? Jordan, Whanganuku, Havili, Christie, Frizzell, Lomax 6, Tasman Mako.
A lot of Tasman boys in there.
And these guys are not benches. These guys are going to be a big part. Look at Lomax and what he's done over the last season. They're going to be a big part of this Rugby World Cup, aren't they?
Oh, without a doubt.
For sure.
It's a really good squad, I think. I think they, the little concern is Retallick, and they haven't taken another lock as cover for him.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming they think Shannon Frizzell might play at lock in an easier pool game. But I thought it was a pretty cool squad.
Yeah, so the 6 front row, and they chose to have take it out of the midfield. That's the discussion I heard. So, but if we look at it, Jordan, what did we think of him at fullback?
Classy.
He's classy. I don't think he's going to play in a big game there at the World Cup unless injuries dictate. But he can, and we all know he can, and they know he can. So
they'll definitely go with Barrett in the big game.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's too good to leave off the field. Bowden Barrett, and then you put Will on the wing, right? That's how I see it anyway. But
and that will be the expense of Leicester.
That's all to be come out of the pool round wash up. But the last 20 minutes, you could easily see Will Jordan shift to fullback in a major game.
Yeah.
They give themselves a lot of adaptability with those outside backs as well, because you've got Bowden obviously who can play 10 as well.
Yes.
So they've got a lot of potential, machinations they can do around there. The interesting one here, you mentioned those Mako. Obviously Ethan Blackadder's injured. Part of me thinks that they went for that extra outside back, and that backs forward split. I wonder if he was fit, whether one of those outside backs, Caleb Clark, for example, might not have been there and Ethan would have been, and they've left that open for him to be the replacement he comes in when he gets himself fit.
There was discussions right up till the last minute, I think, but obviously with Moody and Blackadder, they just said, well, look, we've got to take a fit squad. But you don't know with injury, do you? So,
when has a World Cup squad ever been that World Cup squad by the time the first
exactly
off,
that final team?
It's so easy to get an injury replacement into the squad once a Rugby World Cup starts. So they have taken 3 cover players in that lead up before they get to Lyon. But until then, once they're at Lyon, I think it becomes quite a process, which is why you take 3 hookers, which is why you take 3 halfbacks, which is why you take 6 props.
Whainuku, he just had a blinder. I just think he should be starting, but probably won't. And then you've got Havili. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because, that midfield is going to be quite competitive. So does he start? That's going to be the question. But I guess, that'll be in the pool matches.
Yeah, I see him as a great 23 if Bowden's at 15. I see Damien McKenzie missing out to David as the 23. So these are like I say, these are things that come out of the pool rounds. But right now I think David, they love him. And he's part of the leadership group, isn't he, Hugh?
Yes.
Yeah, he's a huge part of it. I don't think there was any doubt that he was, as long as he got through that 40 last Friday night unscathed, he didn't even need that bit of magic he did to set up that first try. I think as long as he got through that unscathed, he was going to be on that plane.
And what a piece of magic.
Yeah.
And, hard luck to Braden Anord, because he did his knee. And I don't
think he would have gone.
Right. So Havili was always going to be there. Frizzell, I think they said he didn't have a great game. I think he's a great player. There's quite a few people out there. Maybe these are the Waikato supporters, do you think, with Brad Weber, but they didn't see him going on the plane. I've always seen him on the plane.
Christie?
Yeah, Christie, sorry. Yes, Christie.
I think he was always in there.
He's number 2.
I've just on Talkback Radio, there's a lot of criticism, and I just don't know why.
Well, because he's got red hair.
Well, facing back to Aaron
Easy
Smith.
target.
Well, you remember Aaron Smith when Aaron Smith first kind of came on the scene? People had the same questions. It was he didn't have any particular X factor, which seems crazy to say now, given the career Aaron Smith had in the black jersey. But everyone wanted Piriwipu out there, and all those guys with a little bit more X factor. And I think Finn's the same. He's a world-class halfback.
And they're saying
all the time every time.
Smith settled the ship when he came on, but I mean, you've got to look at the forward pack, surely, if things aren't going. And they're saying, he's a bit slight. He's picking forwards up and dumping them on the ground.
That's a big strength of Finlay Christie is the defence. He does a lot of work behind
covers a lot of ground.
He does a lot of work behind the middle.
I do feel for Brad Weber. His whole career, he's just been
always on the edge.
Fourth, and he's a great bloke, and he's a great rugby player. But injuries, he can still get his chance.
Yeah. One of the 3 going away is.
And I keep getting his name wrong. Roygard, isn't it? For the Hurricanes. When he came on, he just looked fantastic. That pass was sharp as anything. So
I think,
And Lomax, he's just each year gone from strength to strength, hasn't he? And particularly this year, he looked really strong. And I've obviously bulked him up too. He looks like a tank now, and he's getting some go forward. So well done to him.
Yeah, his set piece role is tantamount. You just got to do it. Yeah. Jason Ryan's the perfect coach for that. But he plays very well in high intensity test match rugby.
Yeah, to be interesting to see whether he gets the start, and my guess is that he will. You're with the Mako Rugby Roundup, and it's our great pleasure to welcome Hugh Bainan to the podcast. Now, Hugh, it's your first year as Tasman Mako men's team manager, but many people will recognise you for your involvement in basketball on Sky TV and the Nelson Giants. So clearly, Hugh, basketball has been a big part of your life and career, but how did rugby come about? And we've probably already answered that because it's a Welsh name.
Yeah. Rugby was my sport growing up. So I grew up over in the UK. Like I said, Welsh dad, English mum. Grew up primarily in England. Schooled over there and everything. So rugby was my sport since I was 5. You wouldn't believe it to look at me now, but I was the first 5'8" until I was 16 years old. And then rolled up to practice one day. We had a new South African coach, and he said, backs over there, forwards over here. And then he said, what are you doing over there, you lanky piece of... So swiftly became a lock/8 for the last few years of school. So rugby was my sport. I really only got into basketball when I shifted over to New Zealand and my back issues stopped me playing rugby and started playing basketball, and my career helped me with that as well. So big rugby family. My grandfather had a couple caps of Wales. So did his dad during the wartime. My old man played for Worcester, and his two brothers played for Cardiff. My two uncles were the halfback and first five pairing in the second team behind Gareth Edwards and Barry John. So that didn't get much game time in the first. Fair enough too. Yeah. Big rugby family, and it's been a huge part of my life. And then over the last 13 years, my career has sort of taken me down the basketball path. So great to be back in the chasing an egg around, and it's good fun.
So how did that basketball love come about?
I always enjoyed it. So my old man used to work a lot in America, and come back with been to the NBA store and bought me something as a kid and stuff like that. So I always enjoyed it and used to watch NBA Roundup on a Sunday night and all that stuff. And I'm tall, I'm 2 meters tall, so naturally started mucked around the playground and had the advantage. And then when I came over to New Zealand, when I got my first job over here at TV3, they said, "Oh, you can cover the breakers," because I knew the rules. So you go cover the breakers, and I just pure luck. I rolled into covering the breakers in year one of their three-peat. So I covered them for 3 years. They won 3 championships, and a year later they won another one. And I've got a reputation as a basketball reporter, and obviously knew everyone in the community through my work, and then shifted over to Sky as a commentator and gone that way. And wow. I still play now in the local Nelson League, and it's a great sport. I love it. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So you mentioned joining TV3, and then they kind of said, "Oh, well, you know a bit about basketball. How about you go and cover that?" So how did that come about into TV3? What's your, outside of rugby and basketball, what was your career?
So I studied, it's a funny story. So when we were our first 15 at school, we were a good team in England. We came over to New Zealand on tour. Played against Papatoetoe High School, Charlie Faumuina. Absolutely scared the shit out of us. We've never seen a human that big. Coming over from the UK, we'd never seen a human that big. Like we've all got photos with him from when we were schoolboys, and then obviously wanted to be an All Black. We lost to them by 1 in the pouring rain. Then we went down and did a week at Irons in Palmerston North. Played against Palmerston North Boys High School. We were 8-7 up at half time, and then they put their first 15 on, and we lost 87-8. And we were a good team, like I say. So that was Andre Taylor, Kurt Baker, Isaac Thompson, so all boys who went on to play for the Turbos. And I just loved it. Had the best time of my life. So got back and was wondering what to do after high school, and said, "Oh, I'll do one of those gap years." So I just emailed Palmerston North Boys High School and said, "Can I come and be a gap student there?" Or so yep. So I got in that way, was a hostel master and, coaching the second 15 and all that kind of stuff, just that kind of stuff you do whilst traveling around New Zealand. Fell in love with it, just felt at home in New Zealand from day one. I'd already got into university, so I went back to the UK, studied broadcasting at the University of Leeds. And then my last 6 months of my course there, you have to go and do an internship somewhere. Most people go to the BBC or ITV, and I wanted to come back to New Zealand. I'd already made my mind up from day one in Palmy. Which people can't believe, but I loved it. So I emailed the headmaster at Palmy Boys, who's now actually the headmaster at Auckland Grammar, and said, "Do you know anyone in the media industry?" And they said, "Oh, Hamish Mackay is a famous old boy of Palmy Boys." So Hamish used to read the sports news on TV3 for a long time. So I emailed him, and he said, "Come along." I had an unpaid internship at TV3 for 5 months, and got a job at the end of it, and the rest is history.
Oh, fantastic! That's fantastic.
So now I'm a Kiwi citizen, Kiwi passport, Kiwi wife, Kiwi kids, and it's just been home ever since. Yeah.
It was obviously meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
You've had some amazing roles in basketball, which we're going to talk about shortly, but clearly one of the cool jobs was a year as team manager of the Tall Blacks in 2021. So how did that come about, and what did you do for that year? Did you play in any significant tournaments? And
I wish. I wish. Unfortunately, it's quite an anticlimactic story.
Sorry.
It came about. Obviously, I was in media for 12, 13 years up there, and then the pandemic hit, and just media, kind of sports media in particular, shut down. Needed a role, so Basketball New Zealand came to me and said, "Oh, do you want to do this?" And so it was the Tall Blacks manager and media for the NBL. And the beauty of that for my wife and I was, they said we didn't have to be in Auckland, we could be anywhere. So straight to Nelson. Always wanted to live in Nelson. Good friends down here in the Fitchets and the Joneses, big basketball family. So that was a no-brainer. So that was us on the plane, which was, as soon as we had our kids, we wanted to live down here. Tall Blacks manager, we went nowhere. Every single tournament was cancelled that year. But we planned everything meticulously for it, and we had about 20 camps and friendly games around New Zealand against other teams. So in terms of learning as a manager, it was actually great because I never went into any super pressured situations. So we did all the planning. We're supposed to go to Serbia for 5 weeks. We're supposed to go to the Philippines for 4 weeks. We're supposed to go to Japan for 2 weeks. And every time, within a week before we left, it got cancelled by COVID or budget restraints due to COVID and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, a real shame, and something I'd like to revisit one day because I love the Tall Blacks. Written a book on them and really wanted to be involved. And their World Cup's coming up as well, actually, in just about 6 weeks. So I'm keeping.
You can't have that job.
Can't have that job right now. But no, so that was a real shame. But it was great to be around the environment. Certainly learnt a lot. But yeah, didn't actually go anywhere or do anything.
We had Janelle Strickland, the Black Ferns manager, on the show last week, and she was talking about her skill set, which was all around logistics and whatnot, which I assume you put into practice with all of those plans you had. So that was so complimentary for you getting the role as the Tasman Mako manager?
Times 100, because we were doing that during COVID, where all the logistics were, as you know, Les, from being at the Mako through all that, everything was extra. So yeah, no, absolutely. So now sitting down and booking flights and booking hotel and stuff seems pretty easy compared to what we were trying to do in countries where we were trying to deal in different languages and all sorts. Just getting ourselves to Blenheim and back is nice and cruisy at the moment. Let's just touch wood in case I've made a mistake ahead of this weekend, because I'll wear that one. But
well,
no,
at least it's only car travel this time. So
exactly, yeah, exactly. No, so it certainly set me up nicely. Yeah,
right. So when your resume landed on Lyndon Bray's desk, it must have been pretty easy for him to recognise a real quality replacement for Stu Hunter.
Yeah.
Well, I can't speak to Lyndon's thoughts there, but it worked out. Jimmy Holden, who I think you've had on this seat. Yeah, he's a very good friend of mine. So got to know him when we moved to Nelson through mutual friends, and he just said, come and have a pop at this. Was looking for something to do for this year, and he said, well, come, it'll be great fun. So yeah.
Nice.
Ideal. So from managing the Tall Blacks, mate, you went on to the front office as general manager leagues. What exactly is that role, and what does that entail?
So basically running the NBL, the men's NBL, and then while I was there, we started Tauihi, which is the women's NBL, I guess you call it, but officially Tauihi Basketball Aotearoa. It's in the national leagues, the NPC of basketball. Yeah, that was really cool. I didn't, I'm not going to lie, I didn't love that job. It kind of took the fun out of sport for me. It's just facilitating. You're not attached to one particular team, so you don't get the wins and the losses and the emotions. And the reason we work in sport is because you love sport and you want that emotional connection. You're not good. I wasn't good enough to play it to that level, so that's the path I went down to still be involved. You didn't get that with the NBL. Having said that, Basketball New Zealand was an awesome place to work. I absolutely loved the people working there, but just the role didn't sit for me. I think I had 84 flights last year in that role. Not great when you got 3 kids at home, and certainly not great for my wife. So that's why I ended up moving out of that role. But in it, I learned a hell of a lot. You're at some big tables when you're running a national league and dealing with international teams as well. So no, it was pretty cool, and I certainly don't regret doing it. But a year was enough for me, and I'm pretty proud to set up the women's professional league, the first one we've had in New Zealand. That was a bit of proud to play my part in that legacy. Yeah, nice. And the league's just going from strength to strength. I love the NBL. It's the league the Giants play in. Still very much involved with the Giants. So it's a great league. It's just getting bigger and bigger as basketball gets bigger and bigger in New Zealand, and it's pretty cool.
So how exciting was it to work with the various clubs and guys like Justin Nelson?
Yeah, so Justin's a bit of a whirlwind. If you know Justin, he kind of torpedoed into New Zealand 6 or 7 years ago and turned basketball on its head, turned the NBL on its head, and really turned it around from a pretty amateur-y kind of league. It went through some pretty rough patches, teams dropping out, running out of money, and it not being able to get a TV deal, and Justin just came in and turned the whole thing around. It's made it super professional. You turn it on, it looks great. It sounds great. So he's been a pretty cool guy to work with. He's now, one of the big wigs at Sky, which is pretty cool for him, running all the commercial side of Sky. But it was great. The basketball community is a really cool community, and they're a bit different to rugby, who don't need to prove themselves. Rugby's around, and that can lead to some egos and some complacency around the rugby traps. I think, and I'm sure it's the same in basketball in America and football in England. They've been the big dog for so long, whereas basketball's out there, and I'm sure it's the same with football and the other smaller sports in New Zealand, really pushing and trying to impress and trying to improve the whole time, and not taking anything for granted. That was pretty cool to see. Yeah.
And what skill sets do you think you've be able to bring from your basketball background and transition across to rugby?
Definitely an ability to connect with people from all walks of life. Basketball, like rugby, spans the whole socio-economic divide from people who play, spans the whole ethnicity spectrum as well. So you meet everyone. You meet everyone from all walks of life, which is really cool, and you learn how to deal with them. And as a team manager in particular, you've got, with the Mako, we've got 40, 50, 60 blokes on the books. You can't treat them all the same because they're not all the same. They've all got different personality quirks. They've all come from different backgrounds, some tougher than the others, some who are used to certain things because they've been playing Super Rugby or All Blacks for so long, and some who haven't, and they're working their way up, so that being able to manage that and kind of massage how you talk to people is really important.
Yeah, makes pretty good sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, so this year you became a director of the Nelson Giants. I think for the second tenure as a director of the Nelson Giants. The whole town knows who the Giants are. What makes them so special?
Their history. Yeah, the second tenure, because I had to resign from the board when I took the NBL job, because obviously you can't have that conflict. So straight back home when I finished, missed working with the Giants. It's a great club. It's that history. 43 years. They're the only team in the NBL that's been there from the start all the way through without dropping out. That's not easy, as I've alluded to in the NBL. They've had some tough periods where it's been tough to be sustainable. And in a two-team town, which we are here in Nelson, but with the Mako and the Giants, it's huge. And the fact they don't overlap, like we've got it pretty good here, right? We get to watch the Giants until this point, and then the two Mako teams take over, which is awesome. I think the beauty of the Giants is we keep it pretty local as well. You see those guys around town, just a few years ago, you go get your haircut by Bronson Berry and then go and watch him play on a Friday night. Sam Dempster's coaching your kids at Nelson College, and then he's out there winning awards in the NBL and being named to All-Star 5. So Tom Ingham's teaching your kids at Nelson Intermediate. So that's really cool. And then the imports come into town, and we do our best to try and choose those three Americans or Australians or wherever they come from as high character people who you are going to see around the community and be involved in. And that's really important in a small town like this. So you get lost in Auckland, it doesn't matter who you get in, because then you're not going to see them apart from game time. But here in Nelson, you are going to see them. We want the fans to see them, and so we've sold out so many games in the last couple of years. I think
not too dissimilar to the Mako, isn't it? Because you see the Mako walking around town and having coffees, having meetings in cafes, and
I popped down to get a coffee this morning, and there was Mitch Hunt and Hugh Renton having a chat, and they. Okay, the traits, if you like, of the two teams are the same, and the fans are really passionate. I think what's really cool about the Giants is the atmosphere at the hangar and little marketing things that go on around that match day experience of 90 minutes. The GI ant, just the atmosphere, the announcing, everything. There's a real vibe to it, isn't there? That lifts that hangar.
You also notice the way it spans all audiences. So my kids want to go every week, and right through to myself, I'd happily go and watch as well. So it's something for everyone, entertainment wise.
And they just circle the
they're not watching the game.
No, they just run around, right? But they love it. It's the energy and the vibes there. For sure. It's awesome.
Well, you have that advantage of basketball that's always indoors and it's always warm. If it's chucking it down with rain, you still go. Whereas Mako game, you'd be forgiven you don't want to take your 6-year-old to go and sit in the rain the whole time.
It never used to be the Trafalgar Centre. Going back a few years, it was freezing. But you've done a lot of work in that department, which is great.
Yeah. Mate, getting back to the Mako, and describe to us what your sort of week schedule is like leading up firstly to that Otago game last week. And what the feeling is around the sheds in general.
I'll probably take you back a couple of weeks before that, actually, because that's when the important stuff happened. I think we went on a connection camp, which is all going to sound all wanky and all up there, but I think it's actually really sowed the seed for this season and was really high priority on Gray and Dan on the two head coaches list coming into the season. Was to first of all get guys who are coming in from other teams from Super Rugby back earlier than in previous years. So last year, again, I can't talk first-hand experience from last year, so this is all just from what I've heard and understand, but guys kind of dribbled in a bit later and weren't here for the whole of pre-season or were in for a couple of days here and there, and that team kind of lacked a bit of cohesiveness and a bit of connection, plus all the injuries that ended up happening. So this year we made it really important. Everyone has to be here, unless you're away with the All Blacks, of course, or the All Blacks 15. You have to be here for our camp. So we went up to Waikawa Marae, up in Picton. There were 55 blokes sleeping on the floor there in the Whananui. A couple of nights there. We had a couple of big team meetings and team get-togethers over at Waitohi Rugby Club just down the road. Did some community engagements with Queen Charlotte College and Waikawa Primary and some other schools and some sponsors over there, and went out on a boat in the Sounds over to one of the bays and kicked a footy around, and one of the players caught a wild pig. All that kind of stuff. So and it was awesome, and so I said to the fellas afterwards when we got home, it's like, I've only been here, officially a week in terms of when the players have been here, and I feel fully part of this now. So I can't imagine what it's like for you blokes who have been here for years, so it was. And that was really cool. So nice. Within a week, there was no newbies. Everyone was fully part of it. Everyone knew everyone. We'd all been through all that. We'd played Mafia in the team bus on the way back from Hammer all together. So everyone just get to know everyone. A couple of wins in preseason helped, I think, as well. Winners are grinners. Everyone loves winning. Papers over any cracks. And then so by the time we got to Otago week, it was kind of just business as usual. The boys were focused in. We've been doing it for a couple of weeks already. There was no new combinations to work out. Everyone knew everyone. And then there was almost like a sense of inevitability. It was like, if we get this right, if we do what we know we can do, we'll come away with a win from here. And we did. And like I say, it wasn't flawless. There was mistakes. But round one, I think we can forgive that. It was fantastic having Dave Harvilli around, not just from a rugby point of view, but from a leadership point of view, and Ethan Blackadder in the weeks leading up to that. They just set the standard from day one. I'm not going to lie, pretty scared of Dave. I don't want to get in trouble. I heard the stories. He sets those standards and he holds everyone to those standards. So when he was around, great guy, don't get me wrong, but when you're around, you're right, okay, Dave's here, we've got to make sure we're on top of everything today, boys. So that was great to have him. So by the time Otago came around, it was just go out, play some rugby, fellas, and come back with a win.
So I would imagine not a lot would change week to week. Like preparing for Auckland would be something similar.
Yep, same thing this week, and it has felt exactly the same. So the boys on a day off today. So they'll go out and swing a golf club and connect with each other and have coffees and have a few meetings within each other, and then straight back to it tomorrow. But yeah, honestly, nothing really has changed. We got Storm Week looming, so we know how important this game is. To come away 2-0 leading into Storm Week is great, and it gives the coaches a bit of leniency around who they can maybe rest for one of those 3 games or not. So yeah, it honestly doesn't feel any different. Auckland's a big game, sure, and we all know it is. We've talked about that, but there's no change to mentality this week. It just feels like, just run back what we did last week.
Is there much forethought going into the potential Shield challenge, or just see what happens?
We don't say it out loud. Let's get through this week. Southland had that good second half at the weekend. They look like they've got a few things going for them. But if Wellington get over Southland this weekend, sure. Commercial will certainly been putting their head towards it. And I play a small part in the commercial team with Nick, who's Les's successor. I'm sure there's workings going on there around what potentially happens should that happen, but it has not been mentioned in any team meeting, in any management meeting at all. The words Radfully or Shield or Log or O or Wood have not been mentioned at all. I'm sure behind closed doors the coaches have had a whisper about it, and there's certainly a glint in the eye when we talk about that North Harbour game. Which would be a first defence if everything goes as we would like it to go. There's a glint in the eye, but it doesn't get said out loud.
You mentioned you've had some time away as a squad, as an organisation, so you must have picked up on a few personalities, which you've got to manage.
Yeah.
So first of all, who are the ones to watch out for? Strong, silent, don't say too much.
Well, geez, Dave Harvilli is like absolutely the quintessential. It says a lot in a rugby sense, but otherwise he just sits there looking staunch. So certainly him. Strong and silent. Oh, you Sammy Martinga, who had a fantastic 70 minutes at Tighthead, fresh off the plane from the USA.
You think the Pops all into that.
Kershaw strikes Martin 100%. Yeah, he probably lift me up with one finger, but they're all. I actually said this to James Holden just last night. The recruitment over the past few years to get to this squad is just there's not one bloke you don't enjoy being around, because I keep saying to him, as obviously I'm new, I'm just like, geez, I enjoy him, he's a good bloke, and he's like, is there one you don't like? I was like, there's not. Like they're all they're all good fun. And now I'm starting to see ones who I thought were strong and silent type, who aren't. Levi Omua, for example. Right. Don't get me wrong, he's strong. He's not silent. To start with he was, but you sort of, as you get to know them, you crack them a bit, and he's a real jokester and prankster of the team and that kind of stuff. So it's great.
So on that, the fun-loving characters, the pests, the ones that are always on it, yeah?
Tim O'Malley. Like
is that
Bruce,
right?
Bruce 100%. He runs the social cutter for the team. He's a real morale booster of the team. He'll get up and crack jokes in every meeting, and the leaders look to him for that role as well. If it's time to sing the team song, it's not Quinny and Mitch who are up. It's Bruce, let's go. That's Tim O'Malley. So Levi as well is one of them. Tom Marshall, great to have him back as well. He loves that kind of stuff, and the staff as well. There's Richie Marsden. I don't know if you've come across Richie. He's an assistant physio. Had his 50th game. Got his blazer on Friday night, and he's a great one for leading the way that way. So that was a great start for me, actually. I should say on Friday night we had 2 blazers. Tom Marshall got his blazer for his 50th, and Richie as well. So that was pretty cool to be part of. Yeah,
they're great, those milestone celebrations.
Natural leaders. Who are the ones that tend to stand out for you by example?
The obvious ones are obviously Mitch Hunt, who, even though he's out injured at the moment, is still up there leading every team meeting. He's always got a word to say to everyone in a team sense as well. Tim O'Malley, and obviously Quinton Strange, who has been interesting to hear about his progression as a leader. Getting a captaincy as a relatively young age can put a lot of pressure on you. Everything I've seen has just been awesome. When he talks, you listen. Anton Segner's another one who takes a real good leadership role in the team. And you sit there listening.
For a young man.
Yeah,
I said that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Future All Black captain, and they'll play in his hometown in Germany.
Yeah, and we have seen it with Anton, and he's got empathy for his fellow player, opposition or teammate. Mm-hmm. He's an incredible kid.
He's a great bloke. Yeah, and for a guy out here who hasn't come from a rugby culture at all, who's rolling around in the second language, he speaks English better than most of the team, even though it's his second language. And he takes a great leadership role. He leads the defense. So in our team meetings, when it's time for defense to talk, that's Anton. Anton's up and talking, and it's fantastic. It's awesome to see. Yeah,
nice, good. Well, look, it sounds like a great start to the season, and certainly even better that they brought in a team manager that has got a lot of experience, even though primarily through another sport. But obviously, there's that connection, that family connection with rugby, and it's great that you've had the opportunity to get back into it. But also, you bring the experience of what you've done with basketball, which is just just so.
I should give my son a shout out, who made his debut for Nelson under sixes just 2 weeks ago. So he'll be playing this weekend alongside Andrew Goodman's son as well. So
there you go. How's that?
There's the next generation coming through, hopefully.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's great to have you in, mate, and get some insights on what's happening. It sounds like it's going to be a very exciting season. So great to have you in, mate.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
All right, lads. So what's happening for the weekend? What's the plan? You're mainly going to be here.
Yeah, every weekend, mate.
The bus is going to be parked here.
The bus will be parked this week. Yep. A bit too far to travel to Blenheim for me this week, so I'm gonna base myself here on Saturday. And like I said, we got the Mako and the Warriors on Saturday night.
Yeah, and
Friday night we're actually, due to a lack of rugby, we're going to we've actually got a Latin party on. We've a midwinter Latin party, so it's all on Friday night.
Is that the salsa?
A lot of dancing, mate. They're an energetic bunch, that's for sure.
Now that's the salsa group.
Well, I don't know where they all come from, but they come out of the woodwork.
They book, and you do some salsa dancing. Because I remember walking into a bar one night, and they were all there. And next thing, where's salsa dance? So there you go, Les. There's something for Saturday night.
I might.
That's Friday. Yeah.
Come on, Neds. But I think Saturday, this is a good place to be. He's got 2 screens behind us. Yeah. One with the Warriors on it, and one with the Mako.
Hey, you don't even have to move, eh?
Just like move my face.
Oh, good on you, Les. Thank you very much. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming in. We really appreciate you having here. We really appreciate our listeners, of course, and all your comments, and keep them coming. And we look forward to another fantastic weekend of rugby, and we'll talk to you again next week.
The Mako Rugby Roundup. What's on, where and when? It's the Talk of Nelson. Talk Nelson Radio.